Okay, in this video lecture, I will be covering sections 8.2, what are a fungi? So fungi, they are a unique eukaryotic organism because first off, they're eukaryotic and they are heterotrophs, okay? You know, fungi, you think that might be a plant, but remember, plants are autotrophs and they make their own food. So what are fungi actually made up of? They are made up of these long thread-like structures called hyphae, and they form these tangles underground, and what they do is they absorb minerals in water. Now, when you have a network of these hyphae together, that is called the mycelium, and they use the hyphae to basically grow on their food, and they secrete a substance that breaks down the substrate or whatever it's growing on. Maybe it's growing on a fallen tree, but it secretes these chemicals that break things down, and then they kind of reabsorb it back up. So here's a basic fungus structure. You can see the long filaments here called hyphae, and a network of them is the mycelium. And the structures that you see above the ground are called the fruiting body. Now there are 4 types of fungi that your book covers. There are many more, a little more complex ones, but these are kind of the big 4 club fungi. So when you think fungi, you're thinking mushrooms, and this image probably pops to your head. So all of these 4 fungi that we're going to cover are named because of what their reproductive structure looks like. So club fungi are called club fungi because their reproductive structure looks kind of like a club. The structure you see above the ground is the Basidiocarp, and right underneath the Basidiocarp you see these gills. And if you zoom in on the gills, then you'll see the Basidia, the structure that's club-like, and at the end of it is spores. So here's my fruiting body, what's the term I'm looking for? Basidiocarp. And we zoom in on the gills, and what makes up the gills are the basidium, and at the end of the basidium are 4 spores. So I guess this kind of looks like a club. I'll leave that up to you. So another example of club fungi, poison cap. Okay, second type of fungi is called the sac fungi, and it is called sac fungi because the reproductive structure is sac-like in shape. And so the sac that holds the spores is called the ascus, and the spores are called the ascospores. So yeast are an example of sac fungi. So in this diagram right here, I have a sac fungi, and if you can see that it's made up of mycelium and basically hyphae, right? And these long filaments are called hyphae. But this structure right here, okay, you can see it's sac-like appearance, and then inside you see these dots. Those are the ascospores. So ascus holds the ascospores. Okay, zygote fungi. It's the third type of fungi. And what happens is that 2 hyphae, or the hyphae of different, oh, I didn't mean to do that, I'm sorry. I was going to grab a pen. The hyphae of 2 individuals meet, and it forms a zygote. So I'm going to draw a really bad picture over here. Let's say this is a hyphae, and it kind of branches off. You know, hyphae are made up of cells, all right? So this is made up of many cells. And they have a nucleus because they're eukaryotic. So there's one hyphae. And I'm going to draw another hyphae, different color. Let's go green. So here's another hyphae. All right, there's the nucleuses. Okay, when they meet, they form a zygote. Their nuclei will be in one cell, and they will form a zygote. Color that in. Okay, and so that zygote is actually called zygosporangia, tiny stalks where fungus undergoes sexual reproduction. So you can kind of see right here. I'm going to zoom in on that. There's the little black ball that I just drew. 2 hyphae meet in, and the nuclei, they either fuse or coexist together. But an example of zygote fungi would be bread mold, or the mold you see that grows on fruits. The 4th type is called imperfect fungi because we have not seen what the reproductive structure kind of looks like. And so your book talks about athlete's foot and a few other examples of imperfect fungi. Now, why do we study fungi? First off, they're decomposers. Okay, they can break down lignin and cellulose. They can break down, trees. So they recycle nutrients back into the environment. And then another important thing about fungi is that they actually have a very positive relationship between plant roots of many species and fungi. There's actually a lot of plants out there that depend on fungi to help them thrive on land. And so when we see that, when we see the roots of plants woven together with the hyphae of fungi, we call it mycorrhizae. And what's happening is that they're trading goods or materials back and forth. So the plant is given the fungi sugar or food from photosynthesis, and the fungi in return is given it nutrients and water. So you can just kind of see in this diagram up here, I have a plant and a fungus, and they're basically feeding each other. The plant's giving it sugar, the fungus is giving it minerals. Here is a section of grass with mycorrhizae fungi. You see it's just loaded, and it does look a little thicker at the top there, but without the mycorrhizae fungi, it's just kind of blah. And another reason why we should study fungi is for health and medicine. There's a lot of fungi out there that are bad, poisonous mushrooms. There's a lot of fungi that spoil food, and they cause the loss of millions, if not billions of dollars each year. Rashes and allergies can be brought on by fungi. But the good side with fungi is that, yes, we can eat some of them, but they are used in the production of antibiotics. So that's the good of fungi. And I have one more slide, so I'm just going to wrap up 8.2 and all in this one lecture here. Lichens. So a lichen forms when it interacts with a photosynthetic organism, and they grow together. So we have a fungi and a photosynthetic organism. It could be a plant, it could be a green algae, it could be a bacteria, but the fungus is in partnership with it, and they trade off nutrients with each other. The algae or the bacteria that's photosynthetic will give the fungi sugar and oxygen, and the fungus in return gives it water and nutrients. And so why do we study lichen? Well, lichen can live in some pretty harsh environments. In fact, when a volcano erupts, the first species that kind of inhabits that area is lichens. And lichens break down rocks and helps that area form soils. So you can see up here, the hyphae is in this yellowish color, and how it's like encircling the algae cells, and they are coexisting and benefiting from each other. And this is what lichen kind of looks like in our area. You might see it on tree bark, but this is what lichen looks like. All right, that does it for section 8.2.